All right. So, like I was telling you guys on Monday, when I'm out, I'll be leaving you videos to watch. Class will just keep going. So, what we'll do is you'll do the warm up. So, you want to pause right here. You actually do want to pause, do the warm up. So, that way you know where you stand on inverses. We will have a quiz tomorrow on finding inverses and domain. So, pause right here, try this, warm up, and then I'm going to go over it once you unpause it. So that way you kind of see if you are messing it up, where you're messing it up at. So hopefully you paused, and we're going to check these. So your first step, just like yesterday, I'll zoom in right here so you guys can see it a little better. You're going to switch your X and your Y. And then you're going to solve for Y. Now, you can't square root first because the 1/2 is not being squared. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 2. 1/2 times 2 is 1. So get 2x equals y squared. And then you're going to square root. And when you square root, you put a plus or minus in front of it. So that's the inverse. So y inverse equals plus minus the square root of 2x. Don't forget to put that plus or minus in front of that square root, in front of that radical, because we do have to take into account that the plus or minus can be the inverse. Okay, now we're going to look at the second one. I'm going to put my x, y plus 2 squared. Now, since this whole side right here is being squared, we're going to square root. Instinct is to say y plus 2 times y plus 2, because we know that y plus 2 squared is y plus 2 times y plus 2. But remember, when you're finding inverses, you want to just keep one x and one y if possible. So here, since this whole thing's being squared, we can go ahead and actually square root both sides. So now we've made this a little simpler on ourselves. So now we're still solving for y, so we can subtract 2 from both sides. So end up with -2 plus minus the square root of x equals y inverse. So what this actually ends up looking like something you would get out of quadratic formula, right? If you ended up doing y plus 2 times y plus 2, you ended up getting stuck. You end up seeing that you couldn't get something that was easy that you could work with. Okay, now over here, I'm going to go ahead and switch my x and my y. Same thing, we're going to add that 2. Now, exact same thing as the last one. I want to go ahead and square root and get that y by itself. Add the 1. And then divide by the 2. And that's your inverse. So hopefully you did okay on that. If you forgot your plus minus, go ahead and start, reminding yourself to do that. Not a big deal right now, but you do want to make sure that you do start remembering, hey, this is a plus minus in front of that, okay? We could assume they're probably wanting the positive radical, but for pre-calculus and calculus, we need to make sure that we understand that is a plus minus situation. So tomorrow on your quiz, for finding inverses in domain, you'll have like a multiple, so it'll be on paper, and you'll have a multiple choice scenario. There'll be some that you'll actually have to work out, and then there'll be some that'll be multiple choice. And on your multiple choice, some of your ones will have a plus minus. So I want to make sure that you understand when you take the square root, you do need that plus minus. Okay? So if you did all your work and you just forgot that plus minus, good job, but start tacking that plus minus on for me. All right, so here's a multiple choice question. These are just to start getting you ready for the EOC so that you can kind of see what they could ask. So this says, which table represents the inverse of the graphed function? So when you're trying to solve these, what they're going to do is they're going to give you a graph right out here, and then they're going to give you some tables. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to look at your graph, and you want to start thinking, how am I going to get the inverse? Well, you know that the inverse is those ordered pairs flipped. So if I can get an ordered pair off of this graph, then I know that the inverse is going to be that flipped. So I'm just going to go and grab a couple of ordered pairs off of this graph. So I know I've got the point 0, -4, and I've got the point 1, 2. So the inverse of those are 2, 1. So H inverse of x should have 2, 1, and H inverse of x should have -4, 0. So I'm going to look for the table that has either 2, 1 or -4, 0, or it could have both. So here on A, I see that 2 goes to -8, so I know that's not my answer. Here, I see 2 going to 1, so this could be it. Here, -4 goes to 20, and I need -4 to go to 0, so that's not it. And here, I don't see any of my ordered pairs, so I'm not too sure that D is going to be it. So it looks like B is my inverse. And I got that just by simply going up here and looking at saying, you know, I need the point 2, 1, right? Just by some process of elimination. Okay. Now, just to make sure that you're ready for your quiz tomorrow before I get to the new stuff, these are just some inverse practice from yesterday. So on your quiz tomorrow, these will be some good practice ones. I did look at the quiz right before I put these 3 example problems down. So you might want to pause right here, look at these 3 problems, try them. You want to find the inverse of these 3 problems. So I'm going to give you a second to do that, and then unpause the video, and we'll go over them. All right, so hopefully you've had a chance to try these 3. So your first step right here on 1 is to switch your x and your y. Now, your next step is to add that 2/3 over. I want to get rid of the 6, so I'm going to multiply by 6. Multiply this whole side by 6. So I'm going to get 6x. And then I'm going to do 2/3 of 6. So hopefully you got your 6 times your 2/3 and you got your 4. And then your 6's here cancel, so you end up with 5y. And then you need to divide by 5. Now, I'm dividing everything over here by 5. So your answer should be 6 over 5x plus 4/5. That should be your inverse. Okay, some of you up here in this step might have just multiplied by the reciprocal of 5/6, and you might have multiplied by 6/5, and that's fine too. So you might have went right over here and multiplied by 6/5 there, and you might have multiplied by 6/5 here. Regardless, you should have got the same answer out. So these look very similar to some problems that we had yesterday towards the end of class. If I want to find the inverse of this relation, remember with relations, it's just as simple as flipping the ordered pair. Not the signs, just the x and the y. So you want to say 2, 1, 3, 2, -6, 5. And then on this function here, this is still a linear function, okay? This is just 1/12 x minus 7/12. So we could split this up to look like this right here. But what we're going to do is leave it like this, switch your x and your y, because this is actually easier to solve for because they have a common denominator. To get rid of a denominator, which is just division, you want to multiply by it. So we end up with 12x equals y minus 7. And then to get y by itself, you want to add the 7. So I bet if you didn't get that one, you were probably just making it a little harder than what it was. Okay? So that's 3 problems that'll be similar to what's on your quiz tomorrow. If you have any questions on any of those, jot them down, and when I come in tomorrow, I'll be more than happy to go over those. You'll also have a warm-up tomorrow, so during the warm-up, you can ask questions on those as well. Okay? So this is just a brief review from the inverses from yesterday. I want to make sure we went over those. Inverses are very important, like I said yesterday. We will be going over these in every single unit that we go over from here on out. So you need to make sure that you're not getting behind on these because we will be talking about these. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop this video. I am going to go to the next video. So you need to go ahead and go to the next video, and it's going to start the new content for today. All right? Now, before I do that, on your EOC packet, you should be able to go ahead and do number 1 and number 3. Number 1 and number 3 are inverse questions. Okay, so 1 and 3 are inverse questions. So you could go ahead and do those towards the end of class today. But your priority is doing this video and then going ahead and starting the second video. So go ahead and hop over to the second video, and that'll be today's content.